Sometimes when we solve rational functions or rational equations, it's not quite as simple as just cross multiply. Sometimes there's some steps we have to take first. One of those situations occurs if we have to be able to add or subtract with some fractions first. So if, for example, you see that you have two fractions that need to be combined because we cannot cross multiply until we have one term on each side. So if it's a situation where there's more than one term, so again, terms are separated by add or subtract signs, then we need to first try to get some sort of common denominator and combine like terms, whether that means combining like terms on one side or moving something over to the other side and then combining like terms. Then we can cross multiply, solve, and check for extraneous solutions like we did in the previous video. So looking at this first example, first thing I notice is that I cannot cross multiply because I have two fractions here, two terms, so I want to combine them. I see that they're like terms because they both have an x in the denominator, so since they're like terms, I can combine them, but first I need a common denominator since they're fractions. So I know that my least common denominator here would be 15x, so I can get my left side to be 15x by multiplying by 3. I can get my right side to be 15x by multiplying by 5, giving me 12 over 15x minus 20 over 15x, all equals 1/3. Combining like terms, 12 minus 20 is negative 8 over 15x equals 1/3. Now that I have fraction equal to a fraction, can go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 15x times 1, negative 8 times 3. Doing that gives me, I'm going to put it up here, gives me negative 24 equals 15x. I'll divide both sides by 15. 24 and 15 can both be reduced by 3, leaving me with negative 8/3 equals x. I should always check to make sure my solution works. And remember, the way I check it is to make sure it doesn't give me a 0 in the denominator. So I look here at this denominator, 5x. 5 times negative 8/3 will not make the denominator 0. I check here, 3 times negative 8/3 also will not give me 0. So it looks like I'm in the okay. So there is my solution. Moving on to the second example. I believe there are only 2 examples in this video, so it will be a quick video. Again, notice I want to go ahead and add these first. I do not have a fraction equal to a fraction. I have 2 terms over here. But by looking at this, as I look at this closer, I notice I actually can't combine these. They are not like terms because this term has a variable x, whereas this term does not. So I'm actually going to go ahead and move this over to the right side because I see that I can combine it with the 5/2. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 2/3 from my left and from my right. Doing this leaves me with 3x minus 1/6 equals, and then I have 5/2 minus 2/3. I know that in order to add or subtract fractions, I need a common denominator. So instead of writing 5/2, I'm going to write 15/6. And instead of writing 2/3, I'm going to write 4/6. So notice I multiplied this first fraction here, 5/2, top and bottom by 3. The second fraction here, minus 2/3, top and bottom by 2 to get that common denominator, giving me 3x minus 1/6 equals 11/6. And now I'm ready to go ahead and cross multiply. So I will multiply 6 and 11 and 3x minus 1 and 6. I am going to make sure that since 3x minus 1 is a binomial, that I'm going to show that I am multiplying the entire top by 6 by being sure to include it in parentheses. So I have 6 times the whole top, 3x minus 1, equals 6 times 11, which is 66. I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 6. I could also divide both sides by 6, it doesn't matter. And I get 18x minus 6 equals 66. I'll get rid of add or subtract first by adding 6 to both sides, which then gives me 18x equals 72. I'll divide by 18. Reduce those both by 9, and I get x equals, and I think it's actually divisible, 8/2, which equals 4. So I get x equals 4. I check to make sure that's not going to make me have a denominator of 0 anywhere. Not going to make that denominator 0, not going to make that denominator 0, will not make that denominator 0. So it looks like x equals 4 is going to be my solution.